Greetings, Patrick here. 8 questions with, and welcome to the nightcap of our double header. Uh, that's right. We were up earlier today, talking to one of our own, talking movies and westerns and action films, and why Pierce Brosnan is the best Bond when it comes down to the babes. Yeah, we had a great chat with Jeff, also known as One Owen Bronson, uh, and a very engaging chat as well. So thank you both to Jeff and to the chat for kicking ass earlier this afternoon. And I do hope that you'll be coming back for this because, as you probably have been noticing, we are doing a little bit more music here as far as the band talk, as far as the guests go. We're getting live bands in here. We've had journalists in here before. We're gonna have another one here tonight, and Joe, also known as Concrete Spew. Uh, he is, like I said before, I think I'm going to school today uh, because he's going to talk about bands I haven't heard of before, and he's going to talk about the status of live music, concerts, tours, festivals. How bands are able to survive in today's world of social media. I mean, one thing bands are good at, or they should be good at, or at least they were good at during my day, was they used to be really relentless promoters. We're going to find out today from Concrete Spew. I'm probably just going to call him Joe, unless he tells me different. But we're going to find out from Joe tonight um, exactly if bands are still dedicated that way. I've seen both. I've seen some bands go out there and blister it for like for a show like this. I've seen bands go out there and they blistered it. They pushed the show. They pushed it on their social media. They have promoted themselves. I've seen that, and I appreciate that. But surprisingly, I've also seen some bands not do that, and that does surprise me because it's like this is it. This social media is now your new telephone pole. Social media, Instagram is now your new Tower Records, right? I mean, gosh, every show that we ever did, we were around pushing flyers up everywhere. Our owner for the Edge, I used to see him all the time at Tower Records. Owner of the club out there with Tower Records promoting and anywhere else where he could think of, and he'd be out there in his car driving around putting up posters for shows. Yeah, I used to do that. I used to do that quite a bit myself. I used to go out there and go ahead and put pictures and posters, take them down to the local media, call in, send in pictures to BAM magazine, to Metro magazine, Palo Alto Times. Used to send stuff down to Chips Harrington. Yeah, San Jose Metro, Todd Inouye, Sarah. Before that, Carlos, R.I.P. Yeah, and the same thing with BAM magazine. Chris Buckholz used to write our South Bay column, and he's actually been a guest on the show, but for a different reason. So it's really interesting to see how, and as far as like, I know metal still has great websites. I've seen some of those websites they have. They are people that are dedicated to the music, to the bands. And you go out there, most metal websites, they are popping. They're just as active and vibrant as any horror or any physical media website that you might know. They are out there always looking to add something new. It's very, very, very unlikely you'll go to a leading metal website and not see updates or tour dates of the local bands coming to your area. And the thing is that Joe has his finger on that pulse, and he follows a lot of different bands. He promotes a lot of bands. He does it at the cost of himself. Um, and let's see who's here. The doorbell rang, so we are expecting company. Oh, and yes, and the friendly men are here.
Hi, guys. Hi, Pat.
Hey,
Wow! Hey, you made it.
Yeah, we made it nice and early. This is our friend Ruben.
Hi,
He's
Ruben.
He's been on the channel a bunch of times. You've probably seen him a lot of stuff backstage, but yeah, we're here. We're bright and early. We're ready. We're ready to rock.
Hey, I'm just pumping up. I'm just pumping up Joe, man. I feel like today I'm going to rock school.
Oh, we all are.
No doubt, right? Well,
Yeah,
maybe not for Ant though, because Ant's pretty dialed in on music, but I feel like I am out of the loop completely.
Well, and
no, James knows more about metal music than I do.
But I stopped paying attention to quite a bit of metal bands as I got older. So
I don't think I got away from the genre. Got away from the music. It's just like when I got here to Michigan, I stopped listening to commercial radio.
Yeah.
I just did. I don't, even now, I put on my car, I have sports radio on. That's all I ever listen to. I'm afraid to listen to classic rock now, because classic rock will be the music that I grew up with. Remember this oldie but goodie from Everclear.
Yeah. I was hoping you were going to say Smash Mouth.
Yeah, well, I haven't listened to the basic rollers.
How many of you guys remember E6 and what?
No, what's the other one? Third Eye Blind and Three Doors Down.
Yeah. How about this one from the? Remember this, guys? Well, some of you guys pushing the wheelchair, you guys might remember Soundgarden. You're making me cry, because when we grew up, the oldies, man, it was like Otis Redding and the Ronettes, and Donna, and the Supremes, you would hear the oldies coming from all the lowriders that were in my neighborhood. You're right, man. They turn on the oldies. Oh, that's my jam. And they'd be, and that, that oldies, 50s doo-wop and stuff. And you go like, that's old stuff. Now here it is. Now it's like, oh shit, what did that? Now it's classic music. The only thing that's missing is my grease back here and my lowrider out in the front.
Or like what's funny is hearing this was the #1 hit of 1996. Like, I was going to school in '96.
It's so here we are. We're gonna do a retro top 40. It's Casey Kasem. This is from 1997, kids. Hey, wait a minute, is that the same year that Chapeau's at?
That's gonna be in his memoirs.
Yeah.
97, that was a terrible summer for music. That's when they had Chumbawamba, the Macarena. I think that's when Smash Mouth came out.
Spice Girls, right?
Spice Girls, yeah. That was all 97.
Beginning of the end.
Yeah.
We don't have to hate on the Spice Girls, do? Can we hate them all? We can hate on the Spice Girls, except for Ginger Spice, because she was hot.
Ginger is hot. Yeah, I was. Yeah.
He's a baby fan.
I was. Baby Spice was great too.
I went out there and bought Jerry Halliwell's solo record. Yes, I did.
I remember, like, from us young kids back in the day, we heard that Ginger Spice had like a porn tape.
No, she had topless photos.
Topless photos. We tried to find it. We couldn't find it.
I saw it.
Couldn't find it. Well, British people are open with that stuff, but yeah.
Yeah. And you probably find it. You can probably find it now.
Well, but I'm whatever. I don't, But hey, I'm single again, so I can be her. I would love her to be a sugar mama to me. I would take it.
I hear Beth Beckinsale's single too, though.
I know. Did you see the picture of her today mooning the paparazzi out of her hotel room?
Yeah, I think she has problems.
Well, I mean, I would say I'm sure some people would pay a lot of money for that photo. Little does she know what she's doing.
I just it's really weird. Like if you want to see a musician, and I do say that word lightly, but if you want to see oh hey Sue, how are you? Watching while heading to see fireworks. Yeah, we're gonna get fireworks. We're getting that on Thursday for sure, and tomorrow as well, I'm sure. But I was thinking, as far as musicianship go, if you want to see a car crash, and this is, I'm not saying this in any sort of glee or happiness or anything. I say it out of really sadness, and I wish it wasn't on. But man, you ever gone to Britney Spears' Instagram channel?
Ooh.
Oh,
Heavens.
it's so
Did you?
freaking.
That's a train wreck.
It's so sad. It's so freaking sad to see. Yeah, she's just. I mean, that's a good example of cookie cutter music and not having the wrong support system in play. Those
Sure.
guys, they never knew what hit them. None of that family really knew exactly how much their life was going to get totally wiped out by their fame. And
But also, can you imagine like being that type of star, that type of notoriety and fame when you're like 18 years old
Or 15.
Yeah, or younger.
She was doing the Disney Channel shows with Justin Timberlake. There he is.
Howdy.
Yes! That's right. What's going on, Jonas?
Good evening, y'all. How's it going?
What's this?
Jonas, look who's here.
Jonesy Bonesy.
Yo, what's going on, man?
Hey,
Good to see you, bro. What a surprise.
we
Yeah.
gotta socialize a bit. So, random teeny bopper band fan.
Yeah.
Fact.
Yeah, we're gonna be talking with how does he go, James? Does he go by Joe or does he go by Concrete Spew?
Oh, he goes like I call him Joe on my personal, but you can call him Joe of Concrete Spew. So hold on, Pat. Ruben had some trivia for us. He wanted to tell us. Go ahead.
The Lizzie McGuire backing band, back when she was touring for the Disney Channel tour, that ended up being Five Finger Death Punch.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't know that.
Like the guitarist and the bassist, that's where they met.
That is pretty
That is
hilarious.
cool. So they were and our guest is here.
Joe's here.
Yes, our Joe is here. So we're gonna
All right,
start him on in.
come on. Let's bring on the spew. I think that's everybody, isn't it? Everybody's here now.
Yeah, everybody's here.
Everybody's here.
StreamYard.
Yep. Joe!
Hey,
Hey, what's up, guys?
how's
What's
it
going
going?
on, Joe?
Good, very well, thanks, very well. I kind of messed around a little bit with the angling and the cropping. Okay, is everything cool over there? Like,
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you are. We are ready for school. I told James, I said, I feel like I'm going to rock school tonight. So I'm ready. I got my lunch packed. I got the apple for the teacher. Let's get rock.
The apple for the teacher.
Yeah.
Van Halen, yeah.
Yeah, I got my pencil.
Hey, Joe, this guy below is Jonas. He's part of the Friend of Men as well.
Oh, of course, I'm a big fan. What's up, Jonas?
And then
How's
this
it
is
going?
Ruben. Ruben's here visiting us. And then this
Hi,
is Anthony. And then you know me, Joe. So, yeah,
Yes.
we've done stuff together.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. All right. So, Pat, take it away. This is your channel, Pat. We're not going to globally take over it.
Yet.
No. No. You should take over some of it. So listen, I just want to start off by saying thank you for coming in, Joe. And we're gonna, a lot of the questions I'm going to ask, I know they're going to seem really mundane to you because you know a lot of the answers I'm going to be asking. But quite honestly, I'll be upfront with you. I have not really listened to even though I worked in music for 10 years, I have not listened to commercial radio in 25 years. I know no band. I think the only band I know of as far as a rock band goes is probably ICU or IMU or the one that got away, James.
Where's one?
The one with Todd.
Oh, yeah, Todd Strange. Yeah, that's right. You and Jonas were going to do that one.
Yeah,
That's right. We were having connection issues.
Yeah, we got shot down, in flames in that one.
You
Yeah.
can get him back. He's so available, man. Like, he's always up for interviews. I talk to him all the time.
Well, we did have him on one time. Remember, he got nailed by that really nasty storm.
Yeah.
That was no fault of his. And then we got together the band, and one person said, "Yes, we can do the band together." And then the record label guy said, "Not on my dime." And so we didn't get anything out of it. But that's probably the only band I know right now that's actively playing. So a lot of the bands I'm going to be asking you about, some of the questions are going to be about catching up. Like I said, take us to rock school.
Cool.
Now, I guess the first question would be for me is, are you a musician yourself?
I mean, I dabble. I own a couple guitars. I have fun with them. I piece together songs. So I have fun with it. It's not, it's not something that I devote a ton of time to. I mean, I'm sure if you went through my hard drives, you could probably find, whole albums worth of stuff, songs that I've actually pieced together on my own, but, nothing that I've been really ready to or wanted to like put out there. Just, stuff that, this riff came to mind. This might sound cool. What would it sound like if this, if I put this next to this and everything? So I'm just a casual kind of player like many other people out there. And that's it, though. I can play guitar. I have a bass guitar, too, actually. And I did buy the bass guitar for the purposes of completing the music. But again, it was just that. It was that's as far as it went. And, yeah, about it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not a musician either. I know a lot of people, like when have you ever been like you talk about bands or you'll give a report or you'll do a review, and then has anybody ever asked you like, do you play? And then once you say, well, I dabble, and then they instantly jump on you for that, right? Like I never played. I have an ear, but I never played. And a lot of times,
I get that. I get the "Are you a musician?" often, and I also get "Are you in Steel Panther?" I've gotten that probably, truly 5 times in my life. The most recent time was out in Vegas. Well, okay, so that's like 2 years ago. Yeah, but somebody asked me in Venetian. They're like, "Are you in Steel Panther?" And I'm like, "No." I'm like, "But I love them, though." So.
Didn't you say that before we went on the air, James?
What's wrong?
To ask him if he was the Steel Panther.
That's the first I've ever heard of it. I never. I'm not into Steel Panther as much as these guys are, but
you do kind of look like Lexi Fox.
I'll take that because, well, let me see if you can, so we got like a little bit of a swoop action going on there. So yeah, I'd say it's probably in line with Lexi.
So,
now, here's the funny thing about this. I'm asking that question, and I know nothing about Steel Panther. I don't know who they are.
I know
they're absolutely terrific. They're a band that formed probably about 20 years ago. And then they changed their name to Steel Panther after they were called Metal School, and they only played the LA club circuit. That was it. Something, I guess, just motivated them to take it more seriously, and they're fantastic. I mean, they're all terrific musicians, and Michael Starr is a great singer. He sang on an album for LA Guns. One album, and I think the other guys, I'm sure, have probably done stuff like prior to Steel Panther, but no, they really are. And I always kind of laugh when I hear people talking smack about them, because it's usually from the mouths of those that love bands like Def Leppard, Motley Crue, and everything. And I think about it, it's like I understand how they may feel like the existence of Steel Panther is something derogatory, like, they're making fun of the 80s and stuff like that. And I mean, to a degree they are, but musically though, they're awesome. Their songs are just as catchy as Pour Some Sugar on Me and Don't Go Away Mad and things like that. So I can't help but love them. That's what it is. I mean, certain bands out there that may say, yes, we are blatantly Black Sabbath ripoff or Agnostic Front ripoff, something like that, and I can't help but love them. If I said I didn't, I'd be lying, because they sound just like whoever it is they're modeling themselves after. So all right.
Honestly, our friend Prince came in. He's got the first question of the night for you, Joe. He says, Metallica or Megadeth? He wants to know which band you like best.
Probably Megadeth. I mean, that's nothing against Metallica. I've just spent more time listening to Megadeth. I've listened to more of their albums. I mean, yeah, obviously, the first. Well, I liked Metallica all the way up until Black, and I didn't even hate anything beyond that. But I have more of like a personal connection, you may say, with albums like Euthanasia, and I even really like. Oh man, what's one of the Super Collider is one of the more like recent Megadeth albums that didn't get a ton of positive reviews, but I happen to love it. So that, rest in peace, they're classics to me, and yeah, but who knows? Maybe that could change by the day. I don't really think so, but Who knows?
Yeah, it's funny. It's an interesting question too. And it's the first thing up because I, even though I haven't listened to a lot of music for the last 20 years, I know that the same basic arguments are still going on. Same basic talk. Which band's better, which slinger's better, which vocalist is better. It seems like too now there's a new one, and that is, when do you hang it up? When should a band just actively just sit there and say, you know what, our expiration date has hit, and it's time for us to go off stage? When
That's a great question, Pat.
I'm somebody who has a real tough time. Well, hell, everybody's got a tough time with loss of any kind. But I think that it takes me longer to recover from it and to accept it. I mean, the most shining example I think I can think of is with Kiss. I mean, Kiss is a band I live and die for and everything. So when they announced we're hanging it up and everything, I prayed, please let that not be the case. Let it just be a lie or something like that. So I'm somebody who will say, run yourself into the ground. And I was actually just thinking about that because just today I read news that Obituary and Sepultura. Okay, so Sepultura and Agnostic Front are going on tour pretty soon. This is Sepultura's farewell tour. But yes, so I want to go to that tour because I've never seen Sepultura at all. And I happen to love a lot of the Green albums. I happen to love them. But I've also never seen Agnostic Front before. But what's interesting about that tour is that last year at the Grass Pop Festival, I think it was maybe in France or might have been, I'm not really sure where. But Vinny Stigma he was one of the originals for Agnostic Front. And the interviewer asked him basically that question: what are your plans for the future? Where do you foresee, where do you see yourself in a couple of years from now and everything? Vinny said, I'm going to be doing this, till I die. And I loved that answer. I honestly did. Lars Ulrich said something pretty similar too, not too long ago. He said, we'll keep, because he got asked that question. He's like, how much longer can you do it? And Lars said, we'll keep doing this another, I think the exact quote was like 10, 15, maybe even said 20 years. And I have so much respect for that answer because I think that a lot of times when you're a musician, a legacy musician, let's say, and you just sort of put out this teaser is not the right word for it, but like when you kind of put out this vibe that, hey, this may be the last time to see us, I get that. I get that it's marketing. I get that, you want to sell tickets for the tour and everything. But I mean, if you're a real big fan, it's depressing. It's very depressing to hear that because, for a band like Kiss, they were a band my entire life. I don't know life without Kiss. I mean, my older siblings loved them. My parents, by extension, because the kids loved them, they love them too and everything. So in a way, they're kind of like the family band. And I'm sure that's the case with for other families out there like Black Sabbath or Megadeth or Metallica or something like that. So, when you hear that, it's just very depressing. So I always say, die on stage, run yourself into the ground and everything. I'm sure if Lemmy could have had it his way, he would have died on stage and stuff. I mean, I know it's a little bit morbid to be saying that, but I think all the way.
He was diagnosed with cancer and playing shows, even with cancer. So yeah, he was like a skinny 90-pound-year-old Lemmy. Like he was 90 pounds and he was playing all these shows and he sounded like not healthy at all, but damn it, he still continued on.
I respect that so much because what it says to me is that, yes, perhaps the quality of the performance may degrade, but if you have a lot of faith in that musician and you kind of tell yourself well, they're doing it because they want to do it as opposed to it's a paycheck or something, I think that's a more empowering way to look at it, and it's more encouraging and everything. So
that's interesting you mentioned that because that was actually I was on the list here. We might as well climb into it too. Let's see. Prince mentions Judas Priest or Black Sabbath.
Priest.
I just threw Dio.
Which era though of either one? There's been different eras of both bands, like
Dio, Priest.
Heaven and Hell over
Yeah,
Priest.
I knew Ant knew the answer to that. Let's see.
Now, Pat, the real bands are Jefferson Starship or the Bay City Rollers.
I got to give it up to Bay City Rollers because they're from Michigan. I've spent some time in Michigan.
That actually is a really good point because, as you know, lately it seems like it's just been Vince Neil has been touring with, I guess, with remains of Motley Crue, and it's actually been a total train wreck. I mean, there's so many videos out there, putting in the words that Vince can't sing anymore, and it's Motley Crue that used to be raging. It's now nothing more than just a bad punchline. That to me, that's a good example of a band that probably should have hung it up years ago and gone their separate ways and kept their legacy alive. I think the more they stay out there, the worse damage they do to that legacy. Do you agree?
Well, so I think if I were a longtime fan and I loved Motley Crue the way I love, Kiss or Guns N' Roses or Maiden or something like that, yeah, I would absolutely say that. I may be the perfect target demographic for Motley Crue tickets in 2022 and 3 and 4 and beyond and everything, because now I hated Motley Crue all of my life. The reason for that is because they had a beef in the early 90s with Guns N' Roses, and I've always been Team Axl, to this day and everything. I am. But a couple of years ago, I opened my mind and I said, tons of people like Motley Crue. Let me just dive into their discography beyond the singles on the radio that they know. And I came out of it loving them. I absolutely, became a fan. So a couple of years ago when they were on that big stadium tour, I'm like, I want to go to that. So I went, and despite some of the, let's say, the criticisms of Vince's voice and everything, I still had a blast. And I hate speaking negatively about really anyone, but I can understand where some of the criticism may come from longtime fans with regard to Vince's voice. But to me, maybe only because of my level of fandom in the Motley Crue world and everything, I still had a blast. And there were times when Vince may have been, it's like, okay, that's a Vince Neil moment right there. A Vince Neil moment of this current version of the band, you could say. What I'm trying to say is, having a bad moment vocally, right? But I didn't care. I kind of laughed at it. I still had a blast. I think Vince is someone who he looks like he's up there having a great time. Even if he's not sounding awesome, even if he's sounding atrocious. What I really appreciated about that was that he still looked like he was having a blast. I mean, he's definitely not in the physical shape that he was in the 80s, but to me, I'm just like, wow, he does not care at all in this moment. He's just having a great time up there. So in turn, I was too. So
I sort of get that. I mean, it's great that I want to say hi to Dell came in and John from Doomsday Crypt. Welcome in. And let's see. Oh, real quick here. Prince has a question. We'll get to Rob Zombie in 1 second. 1 second.
Hey Pat. Jonas hasn't said anything to our guests yet. Jonas, Jonas has been quiet.
Good evening, y'all. How's it going? Glad to be here.
Good. Jump in with questions. You guys are co-hosts, so don't let me take the mic and run. We can play nice with the microphone.
I'm chilling. I'm doing what I do best, man. I tune in and chill, and just chime in occasionally.
And of course, James and Ant and Russell, you guys can all jump in there as well.
Ruben.
I'm calling him Russell from now on.
That's a great name. I think that has a ring to it.
I will add that everyone's always known that Vince was a terrible singer, but you went to Motley Crue for the show. The irony of all that, though, is of all those 80s bands, the one that kind of held up the most would be the least expected. Poison was the one that held up music-wise and singing-wise. They're the ones that held up kind of compared to the other ones the most.
John's actually agreeing with you. He says, to be fair, they were never great live. But they were all one question, Joe, was Motley Crue though was an organic band, right? I mean, they all came together. They were a group of friends that came together, right? They weren't cobbled together.
As far as I'm aware, exactly, they were. But, for a long time, I kind of parroted what I heard Axl say, which is they made a career out of ripping off other bands, which, might have been the case. I mean, my hallucination, having not been there on the Sunset Strip in the 80s and everything, is that, perhaps this whole kind of like, they might have done what Kiss did. Kiss started to see some of this like grandiose stuff in a very like Jurassic form in the early 70s. And they said, okay, why don't we just play that up to 11? And, they did the right thing, and I have a suspicion that's probably what went on with Motley Crue. But as far as I know, their friendship happened organically and as a result, the band and everything. So I think they're the real deal in that respect. Yeah.
So let me ask this question too, because this too. But back in the 80s, back when I was around, so one of the things that before grunge hit and changed the map, metal was king, rock was king, and a lot of times a lot of bands would come from all over the country. Just like people saying, I'm going to go to Hollywood to act, and a lot of people were saying, I'm going to go to Hollywood to get a record deal. And a lot of the times, and I know this to be fact because I saw some of this myself. But a lot of times the bands would come into LA and they would get showcases for all these labels, get up there, play their music. The guys from the labels would say, yeah, I like that, but we need to change things around. And a lot of bands got cobbled together. Cookie cutters, and my question to you is, because radio does no longer have that influence. We were talking earlier about, I was talking on another stream about late night influencing, as far as movies and whatnot. But it's the same thing with music. Late night music or radio used to influence a lot of what we listen to. But it doesn't seem that commercial radio has that pull anymore. It doesn't have that punch. Is cookie cutters, and same thing with record companies. Are bands still being cobbled together? Are we still seeing cookie cutter metal or thrash, or are all the bands pretty much we're seeing today all organic, all friends, all played together for years?
From what I gather, you could say the sort of like cookie cutter notion very much exists, but it's happening on its own. And I think that the greatest example of that is seen in the doom genre. And doom, for all intents and purposes, is Black Sabbath worship, Ozzy era Black Sabbath worship, which I happen to love. I love all these doom bands that are cookie cutter. I have no problem with them. And the reason for it is because I think, Ozzy Sabbath was awesome. I like the entire, Sabbath run and everything. But, a lot of these bands, Weed Eater, Cyclona, they're kind of like a newbie band and everything. Brant Bjork, who came from Caius. A lot of those sort of like sludge bands and everything are all like Saint Vitus is another one. I'm just naming some biggies here. Sleep are all offshoots of this whole kind of like Black Sabbath worship thing that started. So that is very much organic because they're not metal in general is not being pushed. It's largely been very abandoned by let's say the big channels. I mean channels with like I mean that in the context of like levers of power, let's say. Now rap on the other hand, I think you're still going to find your quote unquote industry plants and creations there. And I say that because one of my good friends growing up was this kid, Adam Gramazon. He runs what's arguably the largest hip hop channel on YouTube today. It's called No Jumper. So very frequently I pay attention to that. I don't follow the music like at all, but getting his insight on the rap industry and everything. Yes, I think there very much are manufactured, created, not so much bands, but more just rappers there. And that those cookie cutter things in metal absolutely exist, but it's voluntary at that point. It's not record labels kind of jamming them together. I think one of them was I never followed any sort of alternative or grunge or something, but I heard that Stone Temple Pilots was a band like that. That they were one of those sort of like, LA kind of studio made bands and stuff. Oh, okay. So that is true then. That confirms it.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember them when that happened too. They got put together and they got pushed out because the grunge thing was happening. So they just got cobbled together and put on the road, even though he still had a major heroin problem at the time. I actually passed on that. I had a band I was supposed to get from the agent, and at the last minute they got pulled because they started breaking. And I'm sitting there going, man, this is really bad. He says, well, I can give you another band. I can give you this band called Stone Temple Pilots. I'm like, no, I want the band that I originally had with you. That's what I want. So I passed on it. And then the next thing you know, Stone Temple Pilots blew up, but had already heard, I had already started hearing the rumblings about the drug abuse. And I was not unhappy that I passed on it. I just didn't want that. I didn't want that. I already went through that with one band, with actually a couple of bands. I didn't want to go through that again. Let's see. Let me go back to the chat. The chat is popping. All right. It's small but mighty. Let's see. Radio. So see, Adele mentions. I'm gonna get to Dell here. I'm gonna scroll up here. Prince wants to know what do you think about today's metalcore scene? Is metalcore basically still thrash, or is that just or is there a whole new term? Metalcore a whole new genre?
Yeah, it's definitely evolved. Some big names you might recognize from today, or at least like the last say 15, 20 years. I think maybe the biggest metalcore band has been that band Killswitch Engage. There's been others very similar to them. There was that band As I Lay Dying. I definitely liked metalcore up to a certain year. There were certain bands from where I'm from back in the Northeast, really where many may argue that was the sort of like kicking off of metalcore as, an explosion. Piecemeal was a band I really loved. They never really went. Well, actually, there's a band called The Hope Conspiracy that made some noise for a while, and it was the singer of Piecemeal. There was another band called Diecast, although some may look at them and just call them more hardcore. But it's such a tough term to really apply concretely to certain bands. Some people call a band like Converge a metalcore band. And I don't know. To this day, I'm still trying to find out what I call that band. I mean, are they grindcore? Are they grindy hardcore? That sort of thing. So, no, metalcore today, that's another example, I think, of a sound that at one point was very prominent. It was being pushed by a lot of the big, channels and levers of power and everything. But it's since, I hate using the word abandoned, but that really is true. But there's still bands out there like that. They're still going strong. There's a band from New Orleans somebody just turned me on to recently called, oh my God, man. If those guys see that, they're going to, I feel badly about this, but their sound is very.
I don't know a single music journalist or critic that can remember every band on every level. So you're good. You're
okay.
Good.
Okay. But yeah, and I think what's happening is you're starting to see some of these festivals pop up that are paying, tribute to it's a nostalgia driven thing. And it's weird because I'm seeing some of these like metalcore bands that I remember that were very popular around 2006 up to 2012. And they're on those festivals now and they're looked at as like, a nostalgia kind of thing. And I'm like, hell, I never really listened to a lot of those bands, but it's a little weird to see them being labeled as like classic at this point and everything. So yeah, it still exists. I don't know.
I don't think classic bands should ever be in the same sentence together, ever. unless you're talking about Johann Bach, unless you're talking Chopin. Otherwise, don't put those things together. Not like we're still living anyway.
Good point. Yeah, good point.
Let me go to the chat real quick here. People are popping up here. A Princess, he listens to metal when he's angry at life. Man, I listen to this just rock out. Larry's here. He's not wrong. It's sad when metal is not even shown at the Grammys. Man, No, I'm serious. No serious rock, metal, punk, alternative ever watches the Grammys ever.
No one watches the Grammys now.
No. Jethro Tull would win every single year, and they haven't put out a record in 10 years, but they would win every time. So let's see. Black Veil Brides, I used to hear all sorts of bad things about them. Never heard of those guys, but we'll hear from Joe. Let's see. This might be my favorite episode ever. Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. That means a lot to me, Prince. Like I said, man, we're trying to do more and more music here. We get more and more guests, more and more bands. We got more coming. So keep coming back. Dale, band groups are just about extinct in rap, R&B, and pop. Everyone does everything in their laptop and becomes a solo artist. Yeah, that's true. There's not very, there's no really bands out there. Dell's right. I can't remember. Like I said, I mean, it could be me being out of touch, but the fact is, I couldn't tell you a active R&B band, and right now I couldn't. That's interesting. See, Prince says, J Bone looks like Chris Motionless from Motionless in White.
I wish I knew who that was.
Yeah, I do too. But you guys all know who it was. You and me both, Jonas. We're out. Let's see. Howard Jones is still my favorite. Oh, no, Howard Jones is still. I know that one. Lamb of God. Yep, Lamb of God. Yes, yeah, I know Lamb of God. They're still out there making music, aren't they not?
Yeah, I saw them. I saw them last fall when they opened for Pantera. I've never really followed them closely. And the reason for it, I'm just not really sure. I mean, I might have heard a couple of their songs. I know I did live. I mean, they were definitely entertaining live. I'll give them that. But I think they may be an example of a band within that, if you want to call, say, that metalcore type of thing, where they came after I sort of backed away from metalcore music. And it wasn't because I thought it wasn't cool or something like that. There weren't a ton of bands that really kind of grabbed me, like the stuff, in the late 90s and early 2000s and stuff. The sound evolved, and I guess you could say so did I. So.
You mentioned a band there, and I want to talk to you about that because I know they went on tour. They got reunited and went on tour, and that was Pantera. And we all know what happened to Dimebag Darrell. It's one of those things where you would think that if anything would ever change anything in this country, you would think that would be one of the catalysms to that. You think of Sandy Hook, and you think of Virginia Tech. I think of Dimebag Darrell. Who would have ever thought that we would actually see that, a major band getting killed on stage like that? I know they stayed away and they went on tour. How did they sound to you? Could you separate the Joe, the music critic, journalist, versus Joe, the fan? What did it sound like to you as a fan, and what did it sound to you like as a journalist and critic?
Yeah, it was awesome. There was not one negative thing I could say about that performance. It was clear that it was not the, if you want to call them, OG Pantera. And by saying that's not a knock at Zakk Wylde, who's the fill-in for Dimebag Darrell. He's just got a different style of playing. Definitely myself and many others, perhaps, anticipated a carbon copy of Dimebag, and that just has not been the case. But I think it's preference, because I know certain people who are absolutely diehard Black Label Society fans, bleed Black Label and everything. So when it comes to guitar work, they may be partial to Zakk Wylde's performance. Others, of course, they don't hide it. They say, like, Zack's not Dimebag and everything. So Zakk did very, very well. Charlie, that is one musician, I think, where you might close your eyes and say, I can't tell. Is it Vinny? Is it Charlie? That is a very, very close match to the original. The actual live package in the performance was so cool. And while the tickets, and I can apply this to many other bands too, but it's no secret that there's a criticism these days of the ticket prices. They're through the roof. They're insane. They're absolutely nuts. The one thing I will say about that, though, is that bands have not sacrificed what they bring to. If anything, they've added to the stage performance. They've made it worth the ticket price. Pantera, the fixtures, the lights, the lasers, the pyro. I'm trying to think of another band who I've seen recently, like a big legacy band that spared no expense. So I get that the ticket prices these days suck.
What's the average price now for a show, Joe?
Okay. Wow. Shit. All right. So the last really high ticket price I paid was 2016. I was right against the gate for Guns N' Roses. That was $400 face value. The only way I was able to get that, was because I had a friend in the community was selling her tickets, and she's like, "Does anybody want it?" I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." So, but today I think that would probably add $700-800 to that, and to be like right against the gate like that, general admission. So I think, general admission face value these days for a big legacy band, you're probably looking at no less than like $500-600. And sad, but
is it easy for someone like yourself? Is it easy to get press passes for shows? Do you get press passes?
Okay, so that's a really good question. Since I've started the channel, have become close with a lot of different publicists, and it grants you access to certain things that someone without without a blog, without a YouTube channel, a podcast, whatever it is, doesn't get. And it's been very cool to hear albums before their street date release and everything. And shows, it's kind of the same thing too. I mean, Robin Winstein, or Winstein, I should say. Robin Winstein is the wife of Kirk Winstein from I Am, and Crowbar, of course. And she hooked it up. The last time they came down here at Virginia Beach, she got me on the list and everything. And so if you're like a journalist, it's. I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's definitely easier. But that comes with an agreement that you're going to provide something in exchange. So whether it's a video about the show or something about the album. I mean, I got invited to go to Milwaukee Metal Fest a month or two ago. The publicist for that event reached out and said, "Hey, here's passes if you want to come out. We're just asking for coverage and maybe some interviews and things like that." I couldn't do it, but I wouldn't have been able to get that had I not had like a voice. And the way I was able to kind of like speak my voice was just reviewing stuff without being asked beforehand. Like I did a review of Milwaukee Metal Fest last year, not having attended it, but just like previewing the lineup and everything. And that is what got me, the reach out from Katie Irizarry. And she's a publicist for Milwaukee Metal Fest, and also for Jamie Hatebreed too. She said, his album's not out yet. Do you want to hear it and do a review? I'm like, hell yeah. So I think you just got to have like a voice and be nice, I guess.
Yeah, I listened to some of your videos, man, and very impressive. It's so cool to be able to listen to someone with a passion and a drive, but yet not afraid to tell it like it is. Like, it's like, hey, if this record ain't, it's a snuff, I'm going to let you guys know that too, and I respect that. And I'm glad to see that you are being seen as a music journalist. That's freaking cool, actually.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's how I approached this interview, talking to a music journalist. And I don't get a chance to do that very often. And I enjoy the hell out of it, because you guys always have the good stories. And you always know that. And the thing is, though, how about this, Joe? And then I'm going to let Ant and James take over for a minute. What's your favorite band that you felt like you discovered before anybody else did, and you were telling everybody else about the band? What was that one band that you had that was just fire? But you saw them, they were playing in front of the sound man, you and maybe the bartender.
Sure, yeah. I haven't seen them live yet, but there is a band from Monroe, Louisiana called, we're talking about Jethro Tull. This band is called Jethro Skull. They are awesome. I mean, they're a sort of, I mean, I'm not going to call them an offshoot, but they're from the same musical inspiration, you could say, as bands like, Gigi Allen, a Poison Idea. So a sort of like skate, it gets labeled as like skate hardcore. It's sort of a version of punk, a style of punk, you could say, that seems to be favored by a lot of skaters and everything. And they're one of those bands. And I forget how I discovered them, but I did. And I was blown away, because a lot of times with just call it like punk music, gutter punk music and everything, the level of songwriting might not be on the same plane as a Led Zeppelin or any other band that gets taken very seriously by the mainstream. And that's okay. That's all right, because punk's not really supposed to be that way. These guys are, though. They're without question, they're a punk band. They're an 80s inspired hardcore band, but their songs contain all kinds of different parts and melodies and changes and stuff like that. So it's not like listening to, like, I'm not knocking the Misfits. I love the Misfits, but it's not like, listening to like Walk Among Us, and it's like all the way through. It's a very similar tempo, the whole time and everything. These guys switch it up and stuff, and it's just like, they're an awesome band. Jethro Skull from Monroe, Louisiana. They blew me away. So, and they're still relatively small, but I hope they get big.
There you go. We have to check them out. I'm sure they're on Spotify. We'll find out if they are. If they are, we're going to put the link down in the description box as Joe's recommendation. And so you guys can go over and check that out. I love it. Thanks so much for that. James and Ant.
I got
I know you guys sit up there in the corner.
Talk to Joe all the time.
I got
Russell.
And then Russell. I'll go first. Joe, we were discussing Steel Panther earlier, and they're in my. I love gimmick bands, and I think they're the tits. Like, they're in my top 5 of gimmick bands. What's your favorite gimmick band?
I mean, I might say Steel Panther. I think at one point, before I knew much about Gwar, somebody described them to me as being, or at least originating as a Kiss parody band, which may or may not have been true. So I've come to love Gwar, but I may say Steel Panther as far as a gimmick band. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Okay, go ahead, Russell.
I got it.
All right, James.
Let's go to
James.
Jonas, go ahead, Jonas. You go.
I'm here, man. I'm chilling.
All right.
Okay. Little dog. Do you have a question for Jim?
Adorable.
All right.
That's Little Dog, man.
What's up, Jonas? What'd you say?
I said that's Little Dog, man.
That's her name, is Little Dog.
So yeah, well, Joe, it's just great to see your channel over the 2 years that we've been connected, through social media, and it's great to see your channel growing so rapidly, because you do deserve it. You work hard at your videos, and it's great that you and I were able to do interviews together. We did 2 Friendly Men interviews together, which were awesome, and we will do more in the future.
I mean, I have to admit, that interview that you guys did together, that was fire. That was like, and I've been after James ever since then, Joe. I've been telling James, I'm whispering in his ear, dude. I'm going like, you got to make Joe part of the crew. You got to make him part of the crew. You really need to do that, because, man, that would just expand your listeners. Expand your horizons. I would do that in a heartbeat. Ant's got the alternative. Joe got the rock. And James, you got the ear, man. You got the stroke to get good guests on. Man, I can tell you, if you guys got together, that you guys could tear shit up. No kidding.
Definitely.
Or just when we do one of like another interview with like a musician or something, have you on the panel.
Absolutely.
You're knowledgeable as shit, so why not?
Jonas, you were saying something. Jonas, go ahead.
So, I mean, I'm always telling James, like, Joe's the real deal, I mean, you're the real deal. And,
thank you.
No, you're great at what you do, and just the style, everything's legit. And, I'd love to do more little stuff, in the future, just anything. Doesn't have to be anything crazy, but, even with the I Am, interviews in the October Noir. Like, I mean, there was no, I tell James this all the time, like there was no better candidate for something like that, you know, for you to actually fly out and get to meet these gentlemen and interview them like that. I mean, you crushed it, dude. I mean,
Yeah.
better you than us. I'll say that for sure. And I tell James all the time. I mean, that was awesome. Really.
See, thank you. First off, thank you so very much.
Yeah.
Hearing that, hearing that means just an enormous deal and everything. So I swear to God, I'm not crying. There's something in my throat. I swear to God.
They don't cross the friendly men for nothing.
That's true.
Right. Help, yeah.
But I disagree, though. See, I think you guys better than me because, and I can cite real, like, legitimate examples. James, we were interviewing, I think it might have been Todd Strange, and a couple times, a couple times I'm like, I don't know if I froze up. See, that's one of my problems. It doesn't matter who the musician is. I am always starstruck. Always. And I think that does kind of bleed into, you know, my interviewing skills, if you want to say that. But I remember on a Todd Strange call, because that was huge. I mean, I was like, holy shit, the fact that I'm on a live call right now with Todd Strange, like, that's insane. And so a couple times, like, I'm like, I can't remember what my question was going to be. And in my head, I was like, James, man, like, carry this. And you did.
Well, you did. Well, I will give you credit where credit's due. The last interview we did is probably my favorite interview I've ever done, was the Tier interview.
Oh, yeah.
That was the first time we had a whole band into one panel, you know, and that was incredible. And then you were able to listen to 9 albums in a week, you know, before you talked to these 4 guys you didn't even know about a week prior. You did great in that one as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, that was one of those bands that, like, I'd seen the name a million times over the years and everything, and I knew going into it, I'm like, okay, so these guys are very established. They owe, you know, they owe my respect and my homework and everything. So yeah, I made damn sure that I was familiar with the discography and stuff. And yeah, that was awesome. Thank you for bringing me into that.
All right. So I do have a question though. What was it like being in the room with Johnny Kelly, Kenny Hickey,
Right.
Kurt?
That was going to be my question.
You went to that bar to tell us the process, because you did the setup. You brought your mics in. You did the mic check, and then all 4 of those guys came in. That must have been insane.
Well, to start, I mean, you got invited, you know. So how did that come about? And
sure, yeah. Well, so that was I told the guys this as soon as no, actually, I have that footage. I have when we stopped talking because the camera was still rolling for a while. But I told them, I said, guys, I'm like, this is the biggest thing I have ever done. And it really honestly is. It was just the biggest thing. I've never been in a room with these people that I consider legends. And it was huge. So the way that, and thank you also for saying that I did a good job, because there were some moments during that interview where the cameras on the left and the right cut off. I mean, one of the angles, if you look at it real closely, one of the angles was like blurred. So I had to go in and try to do some Final Cut Pro magic to try and like sharpen it up and everything. But I remember hearing the click because on one of my cameras, there's like this like malfunction thing that happens sometimes. And I'm talking to them about, I don't remember what, but I hear the click and I'm like, oh shit. And then Tessa Strange, Todd's wife, says after, she's like, yeah, you know, I was standing near the camera and I saw that it said like some kind of like, sorry, you're shit out of luck type thing, you know? But luckily they were all cool with it. I was still able to pin together something good. But no, it was a very, very surreal experience. There's no other way to summarize that. Somehow I ended up getting invited. Their publicist Raquel reached out and, you know, she said, do you want to interview these guys over Zoom or something like that? I'm like, no. I'm like, I will come down there. I'm like, you know, if I'm invited. And James, you really kind of, you know, helped with the assist on that. So I told him, like, I'll come down there. I can bring my gear, however you guys want to do it. I'm like, I'll conduct it and everything. And it was just, it was crazy. I always say that, like, I understand how over the last 20 years or so, with the advent of social media, these musicians actors and actresses and everything, but more so musicians, have become a lot more reachable, you could say, and a lot more easily accessible than, you know, in the 80s and before that and everything. So I think some of the mind blowingness has been lost with meeting some of these people in person and everything. Good friend of mine, their daughter just doesn't like, I was telling her about some of these people that I've crossed paths with, and it really wasn't all that, like, she wasn't all that impressed by it. She knows who these people are and everything. She knows they're you know, longtime musicians and stuff, but she wasn't really all that impressed by it, simply because I think in her head it was like, well, if I want to talk to whoever it was, I can just send them a message on Instagram and they'll probably reply. And I mean, that's true, but I just come from I guess the era, you could say, where it's like meeting Todd Strange, meeting Kenny Hickey is just it's absolutely insane, you know. So that was a surreal experience. It was still the biggest thing I've ever done. And all those sorts of cards just kind of, or pieces just kind of fell into place, you know. And how and why, I don't know. Luck is what I'd call it. Pure luck.
Do you think James and Jonas trumped you by going to hang out with John Christ?
No, we didn't.
Well, I mean, I think John Christ is another one who I think that I would really need to psych myself up if I were to meet him in person. And by psych myself up, I mean, I just to be able to say like hello and not like freeze up and everything. He's another one who, I mean, I was a Danzig fan long before I was Crowbar or Down or anything like that. So yeah, to cross paths with John Christ, I mean, all these people, I really put them on the same level. They're all legends to me. And I mean that quite literally. So yeah, I mean, to have anything to do with John Christ would be insane. I mean, the fact that like you got to go hang out with the guy and like you guys are, that's so cool.
Well,
that's nuts.
Also, Jonas, share Joe some of our John Christ stories. Some of them are really funny, Jonas.
Man, I mean, where do I begin?
How about the Texas Roadhouse? I'll be waiting for an hour.
Texas Roadhouse. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the Texas Roadhouse joke, you know, I gotta dial it back. You know, I mean, I flew into to Chicago. Obviously, I'm from Texas, if you didn't know, and you know, and Anthony and our good friend Mark Nealand, you know, they're you know, everyone's, you know, trying to figure out what to do with me while we're there, and you know, what should we do for dinner? You know, I just flew in, and everybody's, you know, should we go here or should we go there? And you know, Mark had the great idea of taking me to Texas Roadhouse. He's like, maybe we should take him to Texas Roadhouse, and
maybe he's homesick, you know.
And Ant is like, why would you want to take him to Texas Roadhouse? He's from Texas. You know, he probably eats Texas Roadhouse for breakfast. You know, and it was just it was just a funny, you know, joke at the time. But you know, fast forward the next day, I'm kind of hungover, and we hit the road at like 6 a.m. Right, James?
Yep, it was really early.
And I mean, yeah, I mean, that was a 12-hour drive, you know, going through Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania. Once we were 3 hours away, we called John. John's like, okay, well, let me know when you're about an hour and a half away. Okay, let me know when you're 30 minutes away. You know, time goes by. You know, we make our little pit stops and whatnot. And, you know, it's getting dark. You know, we're really close. We tell John, he's like, okay, I mean, we're starving, right? You know, we're going to meet up, get dinner. John's like, hey, you know, there's actually a nice place close, actually right next door to the, you know, hotel y'all are staying at. And, you know, they're open late. They're open till, you know, 11. They've got drinks. They got good food, you know, and you know, and you can actually get a discount if you're staying at that Days Inn, you know, like a 10% off, you know. So, he was saying, once y'all are here, let me know. I'll meet you all up. I'm only about 20 minutes out. So we get there. James is always ahead of the game. That's the thing about James. He's always okay. He gets information and he researches, and that's why he's a great planner. And him and I we work close to execute things, right? But he's just like, okay, what is this restaurant? So he looks up the hotel we're staying at and just Google Maps everything and to see what is in its proximity. And of course, lo and behold, the closest restaurant right next door was Texas Roadhouse. we were laughing so hard, we were laughing so hard. And
James calls me immediately and goes, "Guess where we ate for dinner?" And I'm like, "I don't know, Denny's, Dairy Queen." He goes, "What did we talk about last night?" I go, he's like, "Texas Roadhouse." And I'm like,
so,
man,
Texas Roadhouse. It was great. I mean, James loved it. Everyone, we had a good time.
All right, now John, talk about the build-up.
That's where I'm getting to.
All right, go.
So, we check in, all right, and then we walk uphill, that steep ass hill, and it's freezing and it's windy, and we get there. We we're waiting for our table, and John's, we know John as he's always fashionably late, and at this point we think he does it on purpose, but we're not sure. We're not sure. And we get there, and we're waiting and waiting. How long do we wait, James? It had to have been. It was more than 30 minutes for sure.
45. That's just for him to enter the building, and then 15 minutes for him to get to the table.
Okay, so to put it in perspective, it took us. There was a wait. It was real busy, so we waited close to 30 minutes just to get our table. And then we got our table, right? And we're like, he should be here any minute now. He's only 25 minutes away. We get our table, and sure enough, I was the first one that noticed him, right? I see the man himself walk in with his big old hat and his long leather coat and his whole getup, right? The whole deal. And following his wife's with him, and I see them walk in. He just walks in so smoothly and just nonchalant, and I'm like, there he is, James, he's right there, and we're like waving, like, we're over here. and
bamboing out over there.
I shit you not, John like looks at us and just like kind of just continues talking to the hostesses, and he's just talking to them. And we're like, what the fuck is he doing? What is he doing? And he's just there talking to the hostesses.
And Joe is pointing at us too with the hostess.
Yeah, he looks at us and points at them. He's probably like, these dudes drove 12 hours to come have dinner with me. It was hilarious. It was wholesome. It was hilarious. It was badass. Just everything, it was an adventure. It couldn't have gone any better. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
see, hearing that really it doesn't blow my mind now that I'm older, but Danzig scared the absolute hell out of me. When I first discovered them, it was like many other kids discovered music back then, going through looking at albums in the record store. Back then, there was a metal section at one of the big chains in New England. And I find How the Gods Kill. And I'm just like, what the hell is this? So, my first sight of Glenn and of John, I'm like, these guys, they're really scary. Don't mess with them and everything. Then a couple months later, I see the How the Gods Kill video on Beavis and Butthead. And I was like paralyzed with fear. I was so scared of them. Then Mother comes out, and it got a little bit better and everything. And then I fell in love with them. But so to hear that, like, you're using words like wholesome and nice and approachable for John Christ is like, that's probably.
Joe, have you met Danzig?
No, I have not. I mean, seen him a whole bunch of times.
I shook his hand. I shook his hand one time. Ruben was there.
Yeah,
Ruben was there.
He walked under his security.
I went through his security.
He went
shook
under
his
security.
I'm not tall. I'm like 5'4". It was the premiere of. He made that movie Veronica.
Yeah.
The premiere was in Chicago. So we went, we're in the suburbs of Chicago. So me, Ruben, and our friend Barrett went, and there was like an after party where they were doing like karaoke and stuff. So we walked over there, and we're getting ready to leave. And Danzig's like around the corner with his producers and all this. And I went to go up to him once, and they were like, no, nobody can talk to Mr. Danzig, whatever. So I walked away, and we started getting to the car, and I'm like, screw this. I'm going back. This has never happened again. And I somehow got in there, shook his hand, and I said, great movie, which I was lying. And then got the shit out of it. Now, keep in mind, Ruben's a big dude. My friend Barrett's a big dude. Those guys were standing like 20 feet over there, just hoping I didn't get my ass kicked. They didn't even have my back.
Wow.
We're gonna take sides. We're gonna take Glenn's sides.
But I did get to meet. I hung out with London May.
Yeah.
And London May was the coolest dude.
Yes,
London
he
May
is.
was so. He sent me a bunch of stuff. You've seen his movie, The Brutal Realty?
Yes.
I'm aware of it. I'm aware of it.
Oh, it's 11 minutes of awesomeness.
Okay,
And he
okay.
sent me a bunch of stickers of it and all that.
Oh.
Yeah, he was a super nice guy. Yeah.
That
But
is
yeah,
so
Danzig-
cool.
Danzig, he's like one of my heroes, but he's like somebody I never want to sit down and have a conversation with because I think it would just be like, frustrating, and it'd be like, there goes my childhood.
Well,
You know?
When you saw the pictures of like his house when it was being sold, it was nothing but like Disney comic books and action figures. And it's
That's
like,
cool.
yeah, but it'd be like hanging out with you and James.
Yeah.
It's not like this mythical dude that had like pet wolves and like,
He's basically into the same things as
yes.
That's
Well,
true.
I think like that the picture, if not mistaken, wait, is it on the back? I remember the long box when CDs came in those long box things, which I missed. I wish they still made, but I think there's a picture on the back of the long box was the one of the band standing in front of the stained glass, which I thought I heard that was in his house. That was either a part of his house as an actual window, or it was just some sort of like art fixture or something. Did that come from his house, that stained glass?
I have no
was
idea.
that from How the Gods Kill?
Yes, yeah. It was either on the inside gatefold or something like that. But that was another thing that scared the hell out of me. It's like, why does that stained glass window that like I know that from like church? Why does it have like wolves on it and stuff?
Badass. And another thing, and like Chuck Biscuits, he was really into drawing and stuff like that too. So he was always drawing all sorts of cool, neat little artworks, which is interesting because Danzig got sort of into the same thing with his comic deal.
And he never used Chuck for any of it. That's too bad.
Right?
Yeah. I've got a bunch of his comics.
Isn't that true, James? Wasn't Chuck really into drawing and stuff?
Yeah, it's on the one VHS when they're like for Danzig one the VHS where it's like, what are you doing there? And he's like, drawing, and like, just like doing sketches. Yeah, I love that VHS tape. I wish I still had it.
Now, Joe, we did. Now,
Okay.
I'm sorry, but we were able. My buddy was able to jam with John for 1 hour at a record store in Maryland.
Yes.
And me and Jonas over here had to set up a drum set within 5 minutes. It was
Wow, that's skillful. Holy shit.
well. It was the owner was like, she was closing shop, and John was like, "Look, these guys drove across America to see me," and she's like, "I'll give you 1 hour." So Jonas and I ran outside to the car and we threw in our friend's drum set. Jonas, tell him the buildup of the BC Rich bitch.
Oh,
Tell me about that. This is
Okay.
this is insane. This was
so initially we didn't think that he brought the bitch with him, because he had like an Ibanez on a guitar stand. He had his pedal board set up. When we got there, everything was already set up, and as you can guess, John, even to that, was fashionably late. We get there, we're like, "Where's John?
Yeah.
Where's
he's
John?"
getting
Right?
coffee. He was getting coffee.
He left to get coffee. And he was gone for like 20, 30 minutes getting coffee somewhere. But, he had his pedal board, everything set up, but then there was an Ibanez, and I remember James telling me like, "Hey, that's not the bitch. You think he left it?" Like, I'm like, it doesn't look like he's using that tonight, And we're just like, man, that sucks. Yeah, we're like, we're really hoping to be able to see it, just to even see it, right? Well,
Yeah, right.
right. So, fast forward, we get the news. You get 1 hour, so we're like, all right, let's go. You know, we're parked across the street. We got this, you know, this soccer mom van that we rented out that just is carrying all the drums, and you know, we're grabbing shells, stands, cymbals, everything. We're just running it. We're in go mode. You know, I'm a drummer too, if you didn't know. So, you know, you know, me and Barrett were really, you know, we're getting it. You know, I'm like, all right, Barrett, how do you like your hi-hat? Do you like that much space? You know? And so, so yeah, and as we're setting up, John starts setting up, and I'm like, why is he setting up? I thought he was already set up. And he brings out this big square case, right? And it's got a bunch of, you know, what do you call it, James?
Oh, like, yeah, he's opening up the case, the guitar case.
Yeah.
Which is
clasps, right? So, you know, there's like 5 of them, right? And, you know, this is an old case. He opens it, and, you know, it's all velvety and red in the middle. And sure enough, in there was the bitch. It was the bitch. But the thing is, I believe James noticed it first.
I did.
Because me and Barrett were busy setting. James is taking pictures of us and doing his thing. And James goes up to me, and he's like, dude, look, it's the bitch. And I look, I'm like,
wow.
And so he's like bringing it out, and Barrett sees it, right? We're like, look, Barrett, look, you know, and he just completely just drops, right? And he's just like, can I touch it? He says, can I touch it? And John's like, yeah. He just lets him like pet it, you know.
Oh my God.
And we got to take pictures with it, you know. John let me hold it, you know. I'm holding it, drinking.
Yeah.
James got to hold it. We all got to hold it, you know, and it was just it was priceless, just priceless, you know.
I don't know if I were in your position. I don't know that I would have been able to hold it. Maybe I might have like pet it or something like that, but I don't know if I would have had the confidence to actually, not so much because I was afraid because I would be afraid I'd drop it. It's just that like I don't deserve to like hold that. You know what I mean?
Well, Joe, I was surprised how light it was actually. But then again, though, he's got a lot of stuff done to it over, 30, 50 years. He's had this.
Like working out.
Yeah.
I heard the new Les Pauls are like that. I heard that they've been taking out a lot of the wood internally. It doesn't really compromise sound, but just like yeah.
So it was. I mean, priceless, man. It was just priceless, and just a great time. And yeah, we couldn't have had, you know, a better group of dudes to just tackle this. You know, we did it. We were on such a time crunch, you know, especially me. I came from Texas, you know, and I was there. I mean, explain.
You were at my house for a couple hours. You guys woke up, you came back, hung out for a couple hours, went to the airport.
Yeah, that was the trip for me, you know. And
you guys did go to did you talk about the Monroeville Mall?
Not yet, but yeah, we that was one of the pit stops in Pennsylvania once we got closer to Maryland.
Oh, I think I know that story. You met somebody. I won't say who it is, but
hold on to that for a second. I do got a couple more questions real quick because our time is rapidly approaching. So, but I want to talk to you real quick, Joe, if I can. These are great stories. I love hearing them, and that John Christ story is that's one for a book. But you know what though, I want to ask you as a journalist, Joe, what's it like out there now? I mean, you know, there's so many outlets out there. You know, like here in our YouTube community, we have a lot of people who review movies and whatnot, and you know, everybody wants to be seen and known. And what's it like to maintain an unbiased look toward a band or a record? I mean, I'm sure you're straight across the board as far as not afraid to admitting if there's something you don't like or disagree with on a band's, you know, on a journey, whether it be a live show or a record or a single. Are you comfortable? Are you comfortable just cutting loose if there is something that you don't like, or is it because there's so many people out there, self-styled journalists that aren't really do you hold back your punch at all? Do you find yourself having to hold back your punch because you want to make the publicist happy, or you want to you don't want to endanger the relationship? Or if a band does come out with a record that is not that good, are you can you cut loose on that?
My rule on that is that's a great question. My rule on that is very strict, and it is that if there's something that I know either will not jive well with the audience, and in most of those cases, that's how it is with me too. I will, instead of tearing it apart, I won't review it. I can find the good. I think I can find the good in many, many things. And there have been cases where I've reviewed stuff that it wasn't really my thing, but I knew there might be some people out there that it was. For instance, the band Godflesh. I had never listened to them in my entire life. I was very, very aware of them. I know how influential they are, but I'd never listened to them before reviewing them. But a new song came out, and I'm like, this is a pretty big deal release. I know there's some people out there that might like to hear maybe my opinion and everything. So I did review it, but I didn't, though it wasn't for something that was for me, I still said, look, this is what it is. If you like Godflesh, I'm sure, you'll love this. But I never speak negatively. Let's put it that way. I never talk trash or anything like that. And the reason I don't is because I feel like there's enough people out there that will. So, and some people, they like doing that. They get off on it. And if that's the case, that's fine. I mean, it's metal. Talking trash has been an institution in metal since the beginning. It wouldn't be the same if it wasn't everything. I just personally don't. When I can find the good in something, even if it's not really my bag, I will communicate that and stuff. So, but if there's something that I just know will not go over well, I don't, because it's not going to result well for the band. I mean, the publicist may be happy because they can turn around and say, look, whoever this is, I'm getting you a review out here. But if the comments tear it apart and everything, the band's going to be upset. And I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings or anything. So I just, if it's not my thing, but I do try, though. I try to find other YouTubers out there who may be a better fit, and I'll pass that info to the publicist and everything. So,
what's it like out there in the world that as far as promotion go? What do you think about, back in our day, we used to see bands used to promote on telephone poles and record stores, and pass out flyers in front of different clubs and whatnot. But now here it is, 2024. The whole game has changed. Every band out there has to basically promote themselves on social media. Do you think that the promotion of bands do today equal the drive of bands from yesterday, from like, say, even 10, 15 years ago? Is it harder for bands to get their name out there, and do they still try as hard as they can?
I think there is a belief among certain people, bands, whatever. I think there is a belief that there really is only a bare minimum that you need to do. And a lot of times I think those people feel like it's just rolling the dice. It's like, okay, I will do this bare minimum and perhaps it will go, viral and everything, right? I think the reality is that you really need to go the extra mile in order to succeed in getting feedback and making noise and everything. There's that very influential speaker, that guy Gary V, who his thing is like, whatever it is, just put content out there. If your camera is only your camera phone and everything. And I get what he's saying. He's saying, promote yourself, just put it out there. Don't spend too much time thinking about it. You don't want to have content paralysis. I get that. I just think that some people have taken that way too seriously, and what they put out is not going to really shine. And the reason for that is because there's another band or person that is going the extra mile, and as a result, they're the ones that stand out. So, I think it still should be understood as very cutthroat. That's if you want to succeed, then you got to look at it as though it's a competition.
So basically, the bands have to promote as hard as they can, because there's so many out there, and there's so many. I mean, I love that answer. I'm glad you feel the same way. I do think that bands need to work just as hard, if not harder, than they used to, because there's so many different outlets. I mean, you go to Spotify, there's so many bands out there. It's like you get totally washed over unless you do your due diligence, unless you get out there and promote every show like it's a headliner show, like it's a showcase. I know a lot of bands will sit there and say, "Yeah, but we're opening up on a Tuesday night. I just want to get through there and go home and get ready to go to work the next day." But at the same time, you sit there and you think, man, you gotta promote yourself. You gotta get out there and push it. Let people know you're out there. And and maybe you don't have to go out there in person anymore. Maybe you can work the email, or maybe you can't work a social media site. But I still think promotion is absolutely still 100% vital in order for a band to grow.
Yeah, no, I agree. And you brought up you brought up the band. Oh, did we lose Patrick?
He's an old man. Don't worry about him,
I was
Joe.
about to have to take my shirt off and host the damn stream myself. It's an inside joke.
But you brought up that was a great scenario you painted about the band playing live on a Tuesday night, maybe not being so enthused about it. But if you look at it, it's kind of like, okay, maybe a ton of people aren't going to show up, but it's an opportunity to bring in a local photographer. We can have it's an opportunity to be on stage. Just don't take pictures of the crowd. Take awesome pictures of us on stage. So there's still very much, an opportunity there to do something, Even that, I mean, we're living in the generation now where it's like, people will go to great lengths to look much bigger than they are on social media. You see people going on big trips and everything alone, taking pictures of themselves to make themselves look huge. So why not apply that same principle to the live show? You know what I'm saying? Like you can put it out there. Hey, we're playing this Tuesday night and everything. And that tells people that even if they're not going to the show, it's like, okay, we are aware that this band now, hey, they're out there gigging and stuff. So you can make something.
That's what me and James do with certain with podcasts and stuff and bands. We got his brother's band is playing a show on June 6th.
Saturday.
Yes, this Saturday coming up. And so they're the first band at 3 p.m.
Yeah.
But it's still like we made a video for it and it's getting a bunch of traction. So maybe it'll bring people in and then they can get more shows from it. Or, people will be into it and shit. So it's like, yeah, even if you're playing to 15 people, as long as those 15 people are happy, then
yeah. Hey, Pat, I don't know if you saw this, but my brother's band played in front of a barber shop on the sidewalk a month ago.
I was
my brother. It was my childhood barber had a benefit for children with cancer where they cut hair all day for 24 hours. So they had music. And they asked my brother's band to play in my jaw drop because, they're punk rock, but I didn't know how it was going to work. So we get to the barbershop and on the sidewalk, there's that cover band that, that plays like, hey, don't you want to go? And I look at the crowd and it's all 50 plus. And I'm like, I don't know how Ben's band's going to go over with this. So it was so interesting, Joe. The drummer, Barrett, the same guy who jammed with John Christ, didn't even bring his drum set, and he played drums on a bucket.
Oh, that's so cool.
So, but they still played, and then right when my brother's band played, the 50-plus crowd just left, and it was just me, a few of my friends, and my friends' kids, and that was it.
Also, Barrett's a big weightlifter. Barrett's a weightlifter, and he broke that bucket.
Yeah, he broke it. All right, Pat,
You're saying all the 50-year-olds plus left when your brother's band started playing?
They were closing their ears. They were
the only old people that stayed was James's parents.
My parents.
You know what? I will never be that kind of a poser. Man, I love punk rock. I will listen to punk rock till I die. I have no problem with it. I'm embarrassed for those people.
Yeah,
that's the music that we grew up on.
I'm assuming the old folks wanted a classic rock cover band or something. Maybe
it was.
Yeah. They probably want to hear that classic Eve 6 or the Black Crowes.
So if I could add something, and I just being older, I think it's kind of funny because the 4 or 5 people I know in bands, they're rediscovering DIY. And it's this completely new thing to them that they're using the internet with it. I know a guy, he's in a band and he's like, hey, no one's booking it. Fuck it. I'm going to put on my own shows.
Yep.
I'm going to print out the flyers. I'm going to go book a restaurant, and we're going to get 4 or 5 local bands that no one else wants to book, and we're going to create our own scene, and they're just building it up. And I'm like, hey, it's the BFWs and the basement shows all over again, and it's just like a cycle. It's like, to them, it's like this completely mind-blowing concept of, well, we don't need a manager, we don't need a promoter, we don't need a record label. It's just a bunch of kids, and hey, let's just go to Kinko's and make copies and put on our own shows.
The show this Saturday, it's in a taco restaurant. It's called Concrete Tacos. Yeah, they have bands play. And then in the summer, they have an outdoor stage. And the guy who promotes it, he's really cool, and he gets like all these really awesome bands and stuff. And yeah, so it's like it's in a Mexican restaurant. You can watch like a hardcore band or a punk band play while eating a chimichanga, eating a chimichanga and drinking a Corona.
And that's James's favorite combo.
Yeah.
Heavy metal, and burritos.
I got one question before we go for you, Joe. Before we go, in your opinion, what is the state of music in right now? How do you think of the condition of music? Is music still viable? Is it because now that we see that music is also being hit like physical media is, like CDs now are disappearing. I mean, it's not even being sold in stores anymore. Are we seeing the same thing happen to music as is for movies, where everything is being pushed to streaming and there's no longer a physical media, physical albums being made? Is music in a good place, or do you feel like it's, outside the big summer shows? How, what do you feel about the club level? Are we still making? Are we in good shape, you feel?
Yeah, so I don't know that some of the decadence and the excess may still be able to be reaped, as a result of royalties and record sales and all that. I don't know. That seems a little bit unlikely, the big Motley Crue lifestyle and everything. However, to answer the question like this, what I think the state of music, and I just kind of keep that exclusive to rock and metal and everything, the appearance, its outside appearance, its outward appearance is ugly. That's no doubt about that. And the reason I say that is because, again, it's not being promoted. It's not getting the same push by corporate America as it once was. The advantage to that, though, is that there is a lot of space for creativity within, and that means that a musician may not be thinking that, okay, I gotta play a certain way, because if I don't, then I may get passed over from a record label or something like that. So therefore, I'm not going to be able to make a career out of this, yada, yada. However, it's kind of going back to what you guys were saying about the DIY thing being a thing again. What I think is going to happen, so long as AI doesn't replace, music and jobs in general and everything, what I think is going to happen is that with that DIY ethic and spirit back in play, a lot of creative and cool stuff is going to be birthed from that. And then that is when the suits, again, provided AI doesn't replace everything, but that is when the suits and the AR people, I'm pretty sure that role still exists to a certain degree, are going to take notice of it, because the flavors are going to change. At one point in the next bunch of years and everything, they may say, you know what, rap, it's getting a little stale and everything, let's start promoting rock again. So those people are going to look to the underground, the same thing that A&R people have always done. And they're going to see that there's a lot of cool stuff taking place. They're going to see that there's a lot of fandom surrounding rock and metal, and then they're going to want to exploit that. So I think if you're a musician now, and what you're looking to get out of it is just the sense of fulfillment, being on stage, being a part of a scene and everything, maybe not becoming a trillionaire and stuff, but if that's what you're looking for, now I think is really the time, and that's why I say it's very important to go the extra mile, because if you want to have a shot of when the industry turns around and starts looking for bands to exploit, I hate to say that, but I think that's what's going to happen. Then you got to get in now and stuff. And then that's exciting. That's exciting. It offers hope and stuff. So, and in the meantime, have fun with it. It's to the band's benefit to have as much fun and be as creative and open as they can be, because I think that's going to, increase their chances of being noticed, let's say, when the time comes.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that answer. I think it's a good answer, and I think it's one that you're spot on it. I put Joe's YouTube link down there. So anybody who's watching this on replay, if you want to go over there and get sub to Joe's channel, you're free to do that. Do so. I see that Concrete Spew is rapidly approaching 2,000. Congratulations on that. I think you'll be hitting that really soon. And I thank you for your time, for coming out here and answering questions. And like I said, I was very excited to be able to talk to you. Me and James have been talking about this for quite a while, and I was glad you were able to have the time. I hope you'll come back.
Oh, yes. And I just want to say thank you so much to all you guys. It's been an absolute honor. I love you guys. You're all cool as hell and everything. And I very much look forward to coming out to Chicago, going to Texas and everything. Where are you, Patrick? Are you in, did I Cleveland?
No, I'm in Michigan. I'm outside of
Okay, I lived there for years. I lived in Detroit City and then Royal Oak for a while and everything. So I'm familiar with Michigan, back of my hand type thing.
I don't live that far away from Royal Oak. I live about 45 minutes away from Royal Oak.
What town?
Down to 696. Yeah, I'm outside Ann Arbor, about 20 miles outside of Ann Arbor.
Gotcha. I lived in Ann Arbor for years and stuff.
I want to thank our co-hosts, our special co-hosts, the Mighty Friendly Men, and once again, they're coming in and holding it down. What's going on with the Friendly Men? What do you guys got coming up? Anything worth talking about? I'm sure you do.
We just put out a bunch of shorts like promoting. Well, James interviewed Grave Danger.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, it's a pretty good interview.
And then we're doing now new things, Pat. Now that I'm back in the States, we're making promotional videos for events. We did one for Supportacular. We did. We're trying new things.
Doing ones for Punk Rock Tacos. It's easier with me and James sitting in the same room instead of him living in Turkey and me here, in the Chicago suburbs.
Yeah,
way easier to come up with stuff.
We only have one interview booked, and we haven't done it yet, so we can't.
Yeah, we can't disclose who we're going to be interviewing, but
okay.
What happens?
Hopefully it'll be up. Hopefully I already know it's going to be up to your usual excellence, and I'm looking forward to seeing who you talk to.
Nice.
Real quick, Joe, what's going on with your channel? Anything you want to hype up?
It probably sooner than later I'll be moving into like an actual studio space with like a set and everything. I'm building that now. I'm in the process of building that now. So this won't be there anymore. I mean, it'll still be there for a little while and everything, but I plan on having a piece of it on the wall of the studio and stuff. But no, it'll just be like there'll be like a lot more space and everything, and I use different angles now and stuff, but this will just be a lot more there'll be a lot more breathing room, you could say. So yeah.
Right. All right, gentlemen. I want to thank you all for coming in. Thank the chat for coming in. I know that they I don't know if anybody's still here, but I know the replay's still here. So thank you for coming in and watching. And we will see you tomorrow night at 8:00 as we welcome an actress, Melissa Sapinzi. I don't know how to say her name. I'm just gonna call her Melissa until she gets here because I don't want to crush her name. Melissa will be here tomorrow night. She's a fine actress. And that'll be at 8:00. Thursday we will be dark. We will not be here on 4th of July. And then Friday we're coming back at 8:00 with Australian actress Jamal will be here with us at 8:00. We are going down to Australia for that one. So while it'll be dark here, nighttime here, it's going to be Saturday morning over in Australia. Never fails to trip me out. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for your time. You guys stay right there for a second. And to everybody else.
Thanks, Joe. This was awesome. This is the quietest I've ever been. Everybody else, this is the quietest I've ever been.
No, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.